"He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." This profound quote by Friedrich Nietzsche captures the remarkable human capacity to endure unimaginable hardships as long as we have a sense of purpose to anchor our spirit and transform suffering from something arbitrary into something meaningful and even transformative. Viktor E Frankl, Austrian psychologist and philosopher, references Nietzsche's insight within his seminal work, Man's Search for Meaning, written in 1946 following his harrowing experiences as a prisoner in the Nazi concentration camps of the Second World War. The book is a deeply moving exploration of the individual's search for meaning and our capacity to find purpose even in the darkest circumstances conceivable. Through the unimaginable horrors he endured, Frankl discovered a profound truth: that no matter the circumstances, we each have a choice to find meaning and purpose in our suffering or to surrender to apathy and despair. In describing the horrors of the concentration camps, Frankl recounts how many prisoners, consumed by hopelessness, either took their own lives or simply gave up, refusing to eat or move until disease and death inevitably claimed them. Others descended into a primal, animalistic state focused solely on day-to-day survival, with no concern beyond self-preservation. Yet, Frankl also observed a remarkable contrast. Some prisoners, including himself, maintained hope for the future, refusing to let their spirit be broken. These prisoners knew that their survival in the camps was uncertain, yet they held on to a sense of purpose which transcended the immense suffering they faced, whether a loved one waiting for them back home or a life's work yet to be fulfilled. Their sense of purpose became a vessel for meaning, fueling their will to endure and survive. Through these observations, Frankl recognized that individuals are not entirely at the mercy of their external circumstances. He noted that those who rose above apathy and despair demonstrated a profound truth: that anyone can preserve a vestige of spiritual freedom, of independence of mind, even in such terrible conditions of psychic and physical stress. For the camp inmates, this internal decision represented the last vestige of their freedom, the final sanctuary of the human spirit that no external person or force could ever take away from them. Frankl discovered that while we may not have control over our external circumstances, our attitude towards them remains entirely within our power. He writes, "Everything can be taken from us but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way." Frankl asserted that by making a deliberate, conscious choice to shift our attitude towards suffering from hopelessness and despair to one of dignity and resilience, we can transform tragedy into a triumph of the human spirit. It is within this opportunity to cultivate inner strength and thus endure hardship that we can discover meaning and purpose in our lives regardless of our circumstances. Before his experiences in the camp, Frankl had already developed a psychological theory he called logotherapy, which places the search for meaning not simply as central to psychological well-being, but even the primary motivational drive in human beings. Frankl's experiences in the concentration camps profoundly shaped and validated his philosophy. The extreme suffering and loss he witnessed and endured reinforced his belief that finding meaning, even in the darkest circumstances, is not only possible, but essential for human survival. In the second part of the book, Frankl extends his philosophy to modern civilization. He argues that every era suffers from its own collective neurosis, and in the present age this takes the form of what he calls the existential vacuum. He defines this as the personal, private form of nihilism, the belief that life lacks inherent meaning, which manifests in individuals through symptoms such as depression, aggression, and addiction. Frankl observed that when the will to meaning is unfulfilled, it is often substituted by the pursuit of power, wealth, or pleasure, short-term, tangible distractions and destructive behaviors that fail to address the deeper void left by a lack of meaning and purpose. He asserted that this existential vacuum originates from two key shifts in human history: the separation of the human being from the guidance of merely instinctual drives, and more recently, the diminishing of traditional values and structures that previously provided direction, such as religion and community. As Frankl writes, no instinct tells him what he has to do, and no tradition tells him what he ought to do. Frankl observed humanity's temptation to escape the burden of responsibility inherent in free will by finding solace in either totalitarianism, where individuals surrender their autonomy to be told what to do, and conformism, where they simply follow the actions of others. In both cases, individuals attempt to seek purpose in something outside of themselves, whereas Frankl argues that we must look within. to discover the unique tasks that life has presented to us. He also warned that the emerging view of humanity solely as the product of biological, psychological, and sociological forces has the potential to further undermine our sense of purpose and agency. In other words, why bother taking responsibility for our choices if everything is already broadly determined? Frankl argues, however, that we do have the capacity and responsibility to choose whether we give in to these conditions or take a stand against them. His experiences within the camps are a testament to this, as he and others defied the worst conditions conceivable and even found meaning through their suffering. Having witnessed and experienced the transformative power of purpose and meaning in one's life, Frankl writes in Hope for the Modern Age. He urges us to shift our attitude towards suffering and hardship and to embrace personal responsibility as a path to discovering purpose in our own lives. Within the paralyzing awareness of our individual free will and the vast abyss of the existential vacuum lies our ultimate responsibility, the freedom to choose how we respond to suffering and adversity, and the opportunity to transform life's fleeting possibilities into meaningful realities. Frankl argues that through the adoption of this responsibility, we can uncover the unyielding core of the human spirit and live a fulfilled life rooted in our unique sense of meaning and purpose. At one point in the book, Frankl recalls an encounter with a despairing inmate who had lost all hope. The man was describing having had everything taken from him to the point that he no longer expected anything from life. In response, Frankl offered a simple yet profound shift in perspective. It did not really matter what we expected from life, but rather what life expected from us. Life ultimately means taking the responsibility to find the right answer to its problems and to fulfill the tasks which it constantly sets for each individual. Frankl argues that the meaning of life is not an abstract concept waiting to be uncovered, but something that emerges through the unique and specific opportunities life presents to each of us, and in the moments when we choose to resist, despair, and indifference. Within the choice of whether to take on this responsibility, we also carry a greater duty to humanity. As Frankl poignantly reminds us in the book's final lines, man is that being who invented the gas chambers of Auschwitz, but also that being who entered those gas chambers upright.